The cold crept down Marvin Street like a silent predator. It was Boxing Day, 2002, and Hackney's air tasted like ash and frost, the kind that sat heavy in your lungs and whispered of trouble. For hours, nothing stirred. Nothing but the police, cloaked in unmarked cars and quiet tension, watching the black Toyota Celica park like bait. Inside a neighboring building, behind stained blinds and cracked glass, Eli Hall was already watching them. He was 32, but his eyes held the weight of a century of violence, betrayal, and blood. Born in Jamaica, raised in the gray back streets of the UK, Eli was the kind of man stories grew around like ivy. Former nightclub doorman, ex-con, armed fugitive, a man whose family tree bore more prison sentences than photographs. His younger brother had just been murdered. His father and older brother were locked up. And Eli was wanted. The first time he'd pulled a gun on the police, it had been chaos. An officer tried to spray him, and he answered with lead. The second time, in a Hackney estate, it was a single shot in a screeching escape. Now, after months of pursuit, the hounds were sniffing close. They'd found his car. What they hadn't realized yet was that Eli was already home. When the civilian contractor arrived to tow the Toyota, Eli's voice rang out like thunder from an upstairs window. "Back off!" The man froze. A gun gleamed in Eli's hand like a second mouth, ready to scream. And when the officers responded, Eli opened fire. Glass shattered. Screams followed. The trap was sprung. The siege had begun. Hours turned into days. Days blurred into nights. By the third day, Marvin Street was no longer a neighborhood. It was a war zone. Police negotiators tried reaching him by megaphone, then mobile phones. Snipers took positions. Streets were evacuated. The building was a fortress of crumbling brick and iron resolve, and Eli was its king. Somewhere inside, another man was trapped. A hostage, unknown until he called emergency services in a panicked whisper. He's got guns everywhere. Says he's not going back to prison. They didn't even know his name at first, but they knew who the real problem was. Eli was calm, collected, almost surgical in his threats. He told them he had a bathtub full of ammunition, that he wouldn't be taken alive. One of the negotiators, a veteran, later said it felt like talking to someone already halfway dead. They tried something bold. They called his father in prison, put him on the line with his son. For a moment there was light, a crack in Eli's armor. Then the shouting began. "Don't do what they say. Don't let them take you alive." The negotiator's heart sank. They were losing him. 11 days in, the hostage escaped. It was a win, if a small one. The man slipped out under cover of night, pale and shaking. The building was now Eli's alone, a tomb waiting to seal itself. He was spotted sometimes lurking behind curtains. Once a sniper saw the glint of a pistol at the window, just before Eli fired, missing officers by inches. Return fire hit him in the face, a single round from a marksman. Eli dropped back inside. Then came the smoke. Flames licked the edges of the building. CS gas, flashbangs, everything in the book. It wasn't enough to flush him out. Neighbors were trapped inside their homes. Some wept, some raged. One woman shouted from her window, "Just go in there and get him." But Commander Bob Quick held the line. He had a dead man inside, even if Eli hadn't realized it yet, and he had no intention of adding to the body count. At 10:50 p.m. on January 9th, silence fell. Eli Hall was no longer watching the street. When officers finally entered, it was like stepping into a furnace. Smoke hung in layers. The air crackled with heat and gunpowder. Hall's body was found in a hallway outside his flat, slumped, clutching a handgun like a final confession. The sniper's bullet had torn through his cheek, lodged in his neck, but it hadn't killed him. He'd done that himself. A single shot to the temple, They found more guns, ammunition by the boxful. It had been a war, and the only casualty was the man who declared it.